I see ya. Do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Hi,
Morning, Jack. How are you, sir?
doing good yourself?
Not too bad, thank you.
Eric, I noticed in the minutes, there's a couple of items.
Oh, just wait 1 second.
Oh,
Go ahead, Jack.
there's a couple of items. So, I'll bring it up when the board brings it up. They might, but, just kind of minor things,
Sure.
but we'll wait until the board gets on, but, just things, the first thing that I noticed, and that's why I went through the whole thing, it's at the very end.
Yep.
This time it looks as though the next meeting will be February 10th.
Sorry.
Well, I looked, and February 10th would be the February meeting. So that's it. So then I went back and took a look at it. There were a couple items that I think probably should be changed, but
Sure.
I just want to give you a heads up on that.
Yeah, no problem. I didn't have a recording of it. All I had was some scribblings. So I just went down the scribblings and tried to put them down.
Yeah. Well,
Shay's shorthand is a little different.
I think there is a recording of it.
She said the recording failed.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
it failed to save it. So
now you're recording this one, right?
I'm going. Well, supposedly Zoom records it automatically, and then I'm going to also get just a little tape recorder and record it also, just in case that doesn't work.
Yeah, because technically the recording is supposed to be, the video recording is supposed to be recorded. I don't know where, but someplace on the website somewhere. So, yeah, I see a little thing up here saying recording.
Yeah, I think they had a problem with the save part of it at the end.
Huh. Okay. Well, I don't know enough about to know.
I've never recorded one, so it's.
Yeah,
All I know is to click the link to log in, and that's it.
that's about it. Well, I started doing an investigation about it, and I said, "Oh." So I reached out to Shay to see if she wouldn't mind taking it over, and she said, "Sure." And she's a little bit younger, and I figured my daughter could do it, Shay could do it. So Shay seems to be doing a pretty good job on it.
Yes. Yep.
I couldn't do it, that's for sure. I have a hard time figuring out what day it is.
Yeah, and I'm not much of a typist, so I'm sure there were probably errors in what I had done. So it's.
Well, it's more on the content where, and if you're going by notes, it's a lot different than going by what people say type of thing. So.
Yeah, I think her notes were mostly to remind her of what was said.
Right.
I think that's.
It's tough going through somebody else's notes when you weren't there yourself. If you're there yourself, it brings back memories, but if you're not there, it's hard. So, oh well. Oh dear.
Oops, there's a couple people waiting. Sorry about that. I left people hanging.
Ooh.
Hey, Jack.
Hi.
How are you?
Morning.
Morning. How you doing, Keith?
Good, yourself?
Good.
Morning, all.
Morning.
Morning.
Yesterday morning at this time, I was watching a buck and 3 deer walk across my backyard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The buck was kind of walking with the 3 deer, but not really walking with them. So I think he had intentions and they didn't want intentions, or maybe already intentions were carried out. I don't know.
Jack, get your mind out of the gutter.
Well, he wasn't my mature buck, though. I got a mature buck. He's got about 5 points on each side.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty good spread. And one time I have trail cameras, and he came up the trail right after snow, and there was snow on top of his rack.
Really?
Yeah, and I assume he'd just been dumped on, but it might have been that it was from the fall itself, snowfall, but I
Sure.
think it's from the dump. I don't know, but it's just funny to see a deer walking, and he has a really good spread,
Right.
and they're crooked, so you don't see them all. You see one side really good, the other side is kind of, at an angle, but it's well, the camera even caught a fight between 2 bucks. It's only a 5-second shot, but it caught, the heads were down and they were going like that. And it's just interesting. That's all.
Morning.
All right.
Morning, Rich.
We got Rich on there.
Yep.
Nope, nobody else. Nope.
Oh, there's Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Morning.
Morning, Tom.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, hey, Fran.
Franny in?
Yep,
Which Fran we got?
Fran's are ready.
I haven't seen him yet.
I think he's on mute.
Guess he's not going to talk today.
All right, here I am.
Yeah, oh, jeez. Yeah, he's here.
You want me to put it back on mute? I will.
Any word from Fran Holloway? Anybody?
No.
No.
What's the latest on Shay? Does she have the baby?
Yes.
Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
she
know.
had. Keith, what's the latest on Shay?
I think
It's
he
all
just
right, I
picked
missed
up the
that.
phone. Yeah.
What's the latest on Shay?
She's home. The baby's healthy. Had a baby girl.
Oh, good.
And she's at least going to be a minimum of 12 weeks out with maternity leave.
Oh, that's great.
Good.
It's good. And when did that happen, Keith?
Last Tuesday.
Nice. Great.
So that was the last Tuesday was January 5th, right?
5th. Yeah.
Good.
I don't know how to do that.
She did say she may be back earlier. It's just dependent on how things go. She has to set up daycare for the baby and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
You know, did her mom come up or no?
I do not know.
Mike, what are you drinking? Beer in that glass?
No, not yet, Franny.
Okay,
Looks like a tall one there.
Nah,
Fran Holloway had a problem getting on, so he's going to be on speakerphone here with me.
okay.
So
Hi, Fran.
you say hi to see if he can hear you.
Fran, you're just barely there.
Just about.
Can you hear us?
Right now.
1, 2,
Who's he on with, Keith?
4, 5.
I think it's Shay's.
Eric, I think.
Eric, it's on with
Oh,
Eric.
Eric, okay.
Mike, are we gonna need any votes? I got another Zoom meeting, just around 10 o'clock. I don't know if we'll be done or not.
If we're still going at 10, I'm not gonna be a happy guy.
Okay,
So we're gonna be done. We're gonna be done by 10, Fran.
okay.
Right, Jack?
I hope so.
Yeah, no, we're gonna be done by 10, before 10.
Okay. I just didn't want to bail out if you needed a vote.
No,
I don't
think,
really
well,
have much. I got a couple
I think
updates.
we've got everybody here anyways, Fran. If something comes up, you could scoot because we've got the entire board here, correct? Yeah, we got all 6
Yeah.
guys here, so we're good. All
Okay,
right, so let's get going. Is Fran Holloway, is he on? Okay, we can just about hear Fran. Okay, as long as he can hear us, I guess that's the most important thing. I like to hear Franny when he has something to say, though. But we'll call the meeting to order, a quorum being present. We shall entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of December 9th, 2020.
Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman, I do have a couple of comments. If you want, you can
Okay,
see if any board members have comments, and then I'll go last, or I can do first.
go for it, Jack.
Okay. On the minutes, on the first paragraph of the minutes themselves, it goes, the bottom of the first page, it appears that no one outside of the board sent in communication on the permit.
Comments.
I think that should be to the state. If it was what I said, it was just for the state permit, the certification type of thing. Because they didn't have any. It's not the EPA. So I think it should be in comments to the state on the permit.
Okay.
On the second page, about middle of the page, it's actually the second paragraph, but goes stainless steel quote is about 3,800,000. And I think that should be the value of the capital expenditures program using stainless steel is about 3.8 million. It's a slight change, but the stainless steel quote isn't 3.8 million, but the total capital expenditures with that is about 3.8.
How about okay, you could do that, or you could say the quote with using stainless steel is such and such.
Before, previous one was stainless steel is about 560,000 material cost difference for stainless steel. So that is on the previous sentence.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Yeah. So
All right.
then on the next page.
Okay, thank you.
I think this is a question. Hi, Darlene. I think this
Morning.
is more for Jack than me, but it goes, Mr. Peralt asked if wastewater plants have been having their personnel tested. And I think Jack's question was having their wastewater tested for COVID-19.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And the last item looks as though the next meeting will be February 10th, and I think that should be 13th.
January.
Yeah,
February 13th.
yeah, I had said the 10th to start with, and she probably wrote that down by mistake.
Yeah.
That was my bad, so.
But it should
Right.
be January, right? Not February.
Yeah.
Right, January 13th. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess if I was pregnant, I'd make a couple mistakes too.
And someone would have made a big one.
I don't know what you mean by
I'd
that,
still
Tom.
be doing it.
All right. All right, so I guess what we'll do is we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of December 9, 2020, pending the changes proposed by Jack.
Yeah, I had one question on that too, please, if it's not the way.
Okay, here we go.
Um,
Franny, we might not be done by 10, but
Yeah,
we're gonna try.
I can see that.
Yeah,
you said something about to reevaluate if 15% percentage revenue is fair enough. What does that mean?
Yeah, Tom, currently we pay to Veolia 30% for septage. So it's $15 per 1,000 gallons because the board collects $50 per 1,000 gallons. And by contract, we pay to Veolia 30% of that, for a treatment, for what their cost of the treatment. And so my thinking is just to make sure that that is a fair value so I can put it into the RFP coming up, is 30% a fair value to pay Veolia to treat septage. We still pay for, the board still pays for electricity and stuff like that.
all right, so Jack, yeah, got it. Why does it say 15%?
Oh, well, it should be 30% or $15. Yeah. Yeah, it should,
Well,
it should say.
that needs to be changed to 30%.
Right.
Okay.
I missed that one. Okay.
Tom, does Jack's explanation without going into a whole rundown of the whole
Well, I
process,
mean-
does that satisfy your question?
No, the only question was, has Veolia questioned the amount they're getting on this?
No, I just want to make sure that we are, that the amount that goes in the next contract, in the RFP, is a fair amount. Because they will be paying for chemicals and stuff like that. No, it's more as me to make sure that the value that we put in the next contract is somewhat fair.
Would you like me to find out what other contracts have at facilities where we take septage?
That would be good. But when you do that, just make sure, if you would please, because my understanding is varies all over the place. Talking
Yeah.
Apples to apples, oranges to oranges.
who pays for what out of the budget.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Right, and what's the treatment process? What's the chemicals being involved?
Yeah,
I
it
think
won't be
every plant's gonna be
exactly-
different.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'm gonna have an exact, exactly what you guys are doing there, but maybe we'll have a little bit of.
yeah, it'll be something, my idea is, I would like the septage looked at, the value of septage, the $50, because everybody keeps on saying, well, we haven't changed it in years. So I say, well, come back with a counter proposal type of thing. I said that to Chris, Sean, Dave, Keith, whatever. So this way here, have 8 come when they do the local limits, do the septage analysis, and while they're doing that, also look at the percentage of payment type of thing. So, you know, my hope is that when AECom is done, we'll have a pretty decent handle on it. But, so your stuff would come in handy for them to look at, especially.
All right. Any other questions, comments on the meeting that we had last month that went till 10 o'clock? If none, we will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of December 9th, 2020, pending the changes proposed by Jack
And Tom.
and Tom. Well, yeah, okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving along.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll try to see all the ones that I don't think are too involved. The first
You
one.
got outstanding outstanding invoices, Jack?
Oh, yeah, we'll do that first. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Usually we're like, you know, halfway down your list by now.
Okay, outstanding invoices. Total is $283,014.84. Veolia for next month is $242,164.14. Veolia for septage for last month, $3,459. Chemicals, $31,867.75. Kearsarge for last month, $4,970.95. And Miracle Connell, this came in just after last board meeting, $553 and no cents.
Just what's the Miracle Connell for?
They were working on the nippities, as well as Steve was doing some work for me for, I forget what it was now. So it's either a little bit of Joe's work or a little bit of Steve's work that
Okay.
worked on.
Motion to approve the invoices.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So,
And then payroll is $1,236 for yours truly.
motion approved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'll try to go through this quickly for the items, if I could, please. There's no real change on the nippities permit. Keith hasn't heard any more from EPA, and I haven't either. They're supposed to be reaching out to us once they're done promulgating the responses. For the article that we have for capital expenditures, rotors, et cetera, it's Article 13 of the draft warrant. Again, I don't know if the numbers will change on the final warrant, but right now it's Article number 13.
On that, Jack, just to follow up, we've gone nowhere with another source as to this stuff, right?
You know, it's one of those things I still want to do a little bit more, but when you come right down to it, I think what both Keith said and Kruger said is it doesn't make sense to change because you'd have to do structural work.
Okay.
So, but I just want to make sure my head is on straight on it before I
So
make
just moving forward, Jack, with this, I have no problem whatsoever with that. I'm just due diligence here. We need to have all of that information, ducks in a row, when you go to finance committee, because
Right.
somebody's going to ask, you know, how many prices did you get? Boom, 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 boom. And you need to have those organized, ready, answers ready, boom, boom, boom. Okay.
Right.
All right. Thanks.
If nobody has any questions on that right now, Rich did have a question about is wording adequate in the article, and the articles that have to do with borrowing are reviewed by bond counsel before the warrant's prepared, and bond counsel will have the final say.
Jack, with that, the only reason I asked was every single article has some sort of description, except for Article 9. And right up front, they give a disclaimer that the additional information is meaningless. It's just to provide extra information to the voters. And it just seems odd that we're the only ones, except for 9, of course, that doesn't have some description of why we're asking for $4 million.
Well, we say capital improvements.
I know.
So, but
What does that mean?
well,
Is-
you know, the
Rich, is
article
anybody
would
gonna
go
understand
quite lengthy.
what you're talking about?
What's
One
that?
one issue is that when you have a lot of detail in there, that then you become tied down to exactly
No,
what's,
no, you don't. The disclaimer takes care of that.
well, if you have a disclaimer.
No, it's already in the very first part of the warrant. There's a disclaimer that any information, article information, is just for extra information. It doesn't tie it down to anything.
Well, all I can tell you is what I've been told by one of the reasons why Article 21, which we're grabbing money from, had wording that requires us to go to town meeting if we use it for anything else. Okay. So,
Jack,
you know, the wording that is in our article is similar wording to what we've used in previous articles, I'll put it that way, and has gone through bond counsel. Christie, I asked her if she wanted any more information at the current time, and she said, I'll get back to you, and she hasn't yet. So nobody, you know, at town meeting, we will do the list, you know, once somebody from the board makes the motion, then I or somebody from the board can get up there and do the presentation and just show everybody the list of items that we intend on doing at this time. Similar to what I presented to the board, you know, just a list of items type of thing, maybe by year, but not really any more than that. So now that would be showing intent of what you just want to do, but doesn't tie you down to it. So.
I mean, just a simple paragraph says the plant is getting old, equipment needs updating. One of the items is the rotors, you know, just something like that. So someone looks at it and say, oh, okay, fine. Otherwise, it's going to get into a lengthy discussion, perhaps. That's all. I mean, it's not a big deal, but I just think it's odd that we're, except for one other, we're the only ones that don't have any information on what 4 million, and it's a significant amount, what it's going to be spent for.
Well, I can revise it, just say, just quickly list the items that we're thinking of.
What do the other guys think of it? I mean, does it make sense or not?
Jack, I can real quick. I think what Rich is saying is on the articles, it's not part of the article itself, but rather there's a small explanation below the article. It's even in different typeset. I think it's, you know, looks different than the article. Just a bit of information about what it's for. It's not really part of the article. So I think that's all it is. It's kind of an FYI type of thing they've added on there.
Yeah. Often the finance committee, I didn't read the whole warrant, but typically what the finance committee will do in part of their booklet that they hand out at town meeting is if they feel that the voter needs more information, they will say that information. An example is on the board's budget. Typically, they'll have a subnote. You go to the subnote, you know, say that the budget increase is primarily due to contract increase with due to a contract increase. That way, there the voter sees. So often that they will do that, and that'll be in the separate. You know, that'll be in the finance committee's comments on the article. Whereas you know, the warrant is prepared. I can ask Christie if we can add that in.
Jack, ask her if we need to add anything.
Okay.
If so, and say some of the members are concerned that we don't have a description, you know, can we add it? Should we add it? and then go from there.
Mr. Chairman, I think, adding the description about all this stuff might be too technical for the people.
I don't disagree, Fran. That
But-
was
but-
my
but
original point.
I think-
Rich, you understand it. We kind of understand it. We get the town meeting, people, typically our articles come up and people don't know what the hell we're talking about.
But
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, but I think one sentence could say, keep it simple, you're not going to be allowed to flush your toilets anymore if you don't approve this article.
There you go.
Keep it simple,
There you go.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll vote it right in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll reach out to Christie and ask her if we need more.
Yeah.
Um, As far as the budget goes, there's no change in that. Ops, I'm still working on the RFP. But I'm thinking right now of potentially around July 1st going out with it. So it'll be probably in July.
Jack, while we're on this subject, and I know it's going to come back later in the meeting, and we touched on this a while back. I know I did because I brought it up. I don't remember exactly which meeting it was. This is great. You got dates, you got targets, boom, boom, boom. And then on the backside, you're looking to get out before we do this process. And I brought this up prior. I want you here when we do this process. I don't want the new person here. When we're making these decisions, they don't know how this plant runs. They don't know how Veolia works. They don't know. I'm guessing this person's not going to know. This is the biggest thing we're going to do in the next 5 years, 10 years, probably. Okay, because we've already done the big upgrade. We've already done, everything else is going to be secondary. It's going to be on a smaller scale. I think it's vital that, and I'll entertain conversation from the rest of the board. I think it's vital that you're part of this process. Unless you really feel you need to get out and you've got some other issues and we're not privy to it, that's fine. If it's a personal thing, let us know. But I'm personally, I'm not real comfortable dropping this in the lap of a brand new person that's going to come in and take your position. And I'll open it up for conversation from everybody else.
I would say that if you hire a new person before, I thought we were still going to keep Jack on hand to help the new person.
Tom, I get that, but how much? I mean, how much say does Jack have now that he doesn't have the position? I mean, I get that as far as a transition goes into the position, but to decide who's gonna operate the plant, when this person has no experience with us, with Veolia, I just think I'm not comfortable with it.
Well, if we could talk about it again, but if the board would like me to stay, of course, you can always pay me triple or quadruple, but no. But realistically, if the board prefers I stay through it, I came up with that just so the new person would have hands-on on selecting the next, the person he's going to deal with. If the board would prefer, there's pros and cons each way. If the board would rather have me go through the process and then while we're out for proposals or shortly after, advertise for my replacement, I'm not opposed to that either. In other words, I can carry it through at least through the RFP process and maybe through the evaluation, but at some point I want to get out because now you're going to be getting into the budget situation. And so I guess think on it, there's pros and cons. My thinking was that it would allow the new person to have hands-on with the selection process. I'm hoping that's the same one, but we can't say that. But in a way, it does make sense because the person coming on is going to have his or her hands full just going through the process. And I don't mind carrying it through the process, which means that we delay it in replacing me. So, you know, for now, I guess we just wait and see. We still have to get the job description done. We have to get the bylaws changed. So there's a lot still on our plate before you replace me. So I don't mind staying through the process, but that means that we're going to start getting into the budget process as well, which I can do the draft budget, but that means that, and I can guide the person. I think it's
Jack, to that point, Jack, to that point, okay, beyond the RFP contract ops situation, the budget, that, okay, is something that, you know, we can transition, you can consult in that. I don't see, you know, I don't see you being able to consult on the contract op thing. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. And that's going to ask a lot of whoever this person is coming in to sit down, throw this RFP on their lap, and they don't even know where the building is, for Christ's sake. You know, I mean, they don't know anything here. So I just think it's a lot to ask of anybody. I think you know, if we're up front and we tell people, yeah, when you come in, this is what we're going to be doing, it may scare people away. They may say, I'm not doing this. I mean, this is too much to ask of a person who's not familiar with the whole situation. I think it's, you know, is it unfortunate, you know, timing? Probably, you know, but it's a reality. And I think in the best interest of a smooth transition and smooth operation and getting this contract done, I think it's important that you're on board. And again, you know, I'd love to hear from Jack Peralt on this and whoever else.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to chime in because I would agree with you, Mike, that I think if Jack could stay on, that would be best for all of us. I think the other thing we haven't talked about too much is the whole procurement process and what you have to go through. We were saying, well, lucky you find somebody who's going to fill the job that Jack is currently doing. And on top of that, you're going to add somebody who also has been through the whole procurement process and, you know, state statutes and everything that's involved with that. That in itself is kind of a pain, to be honest with you. It's very tedious, and if you screw it up, well, you're back to square one, you know, and somebody can, you know, just throw a wrench in the whole thing, and that's it. You're doing it all over again. So I think if Jack could stay on through that whole procurement process, go through evaluation with us, I think then, like you said, we get into the budget process. Jack could help guide and consult on that end. That would be great, because by then we will have chosen somebody. We'll know what the numbers are, and you can show them how it all works. So to me, that'd be the ideal way to kind of transition from Jack to whoever is next.
Okay, well, I could change the wording for the next meeting under item number 6. And I'll say after the RFP process that the board should anticipate replacing me, if that's okay.
Do we need to even have to put that in, Jack?
No, yeah, but I do want to be on the board's radar, I guess. I like to have a schedule so I have some goal as to what to do.
Okay.
I could take it out for now and then bring it back in again later. I'll make it simple.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else got any comments here? Okay.
On the IPP program, if you looked at Keith's MOR, he noted right in there that AECom's looking at it, and I believe that they're supposed to be getting back with more information to them by the end of this week, type of thing. So there's no real change there, other than it's being, you know, AECom's looking at it, and they'll be coming in with proposal to Veolia on that item there to do the work. Job description, I think we beat that up pretty good, but I would like to get going on the job description, depending upon how long the committee's going to take. I would like to send the job description over. I did update it. I think it was Jack made comments about it should incorporate the items of the tasks. And so I cross-checked them, and I believe most, if not all, of the task items are named in the job. But I would like to get that over to town hall so they can look at it and make sure it's ready and okay. We're not of the urgency that we were before, but at the same time, they're going to be busy with town meeting and stuff. They might not have a chance to look at it too much either, but at least would like to get it over there and get them looking at it.
I got a question on that. More of a global question on the job description. Just looking at this, what Jack did, which was very informative on how he packaged what the description is and also more so the tasks. I have a big concern in how we're going to find someone to look at the 7 pages that he put together and find them qualified to fill the position for under $15,000 a year. And then after you take taxes out of it, you're at less than that. And with this job description, it's very unique. It covers a lot of topics and a lot of areas, well beyond what an engineer, even a PE engineer does. It's a municipal job as well as an engineering job, as well as it's a technical job, as well as it's an accounting type job. And, if this was given to a headhunter as a full-time position, and they looked at this and they tried to formulate who they would look for to fill the description of the 6-7 pages, that would be an odd task in itself for maybe a 6-figure full-time job for some person in a responsible charge like this. But then you put it down for under 15 grand, albeit part-time, and then the learning curve involved, as we already discussed, with someone there with Jack concurrently. I'm afraid we're not going to find anyone. And if we find someone, as Mike alluded to, after a couple of months, they'll say, I can't do this. I can't take this. And the money isn't worth it. And they're gone. Now Jack is gone and the person's gone and we've got a big hole here. So I'm very concerned, more so than all the other topics today, of how this position is going to be filled if and when down the line. Is the person going to be qualified and they're going to stay? Because it's a key thing to running this plant. So I'm very uncomfortable with this whole thing, not knowing that I don't think there may be a solution that we think there is out there without finding a way to test it now and see what we need to do before the day comes when we have to make the decision and we're left holding the bag. So I don't know the answer. I'm just very concerned about what I read in his paperwork over the weekend here.
I think you're spot on, Fran. And I think we've touched on this a few other times. Is there a way to, and I know we've talked about this and I'm looking at everything and it's just kind of, there's a lot here, right? It's, is there a way to make enough changes that we could offer this out to an engineering firm? I know we've talked about this, and Jack, you're probably the one who can answer these questions, because I'm thinking, as Fran was talking, I'm thinking almost like when we did the upgrade when we had Steve, I forget his last name. Is that awful?
Calabro.
Yeah.
Calabro. Yeah.
What's that?
Calabro.
Steve Calabro, right? As our project. Owner's project manager, OPM, and he did a fabulous job. He was assigned by was it Stantec, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And is there a way to make enough bylaw changes and so forth that we could try to do that? Because I agree with Fran. I'm looking at this whole thing and it's monumental.
Well, I can reach out to Steve Madaus and ask him to give an opinion as to the intermunicipal agreement.
Right.
I think that's the first step. No, it's because the board in the past has expressed displeasure at change in the IMA, but is the wording such that the board could hire a firm instead of a person? It gives you,
And I think what it would be is if we went that, Jack, if we went, and explain it to them this way, if we went that way, I think what we'd want to do obviously is we would want a commitment from whatever firm it might be that, they assign one person to it, as long as that person's employed by them, and then obviously if that person leaves the firm, then there has to be a change. But it just, it's daunting. And Franny's spot on. I mean, for $15,000, people are going to look at this, and when these bylaws were written, there's been a lot of evolution to this position. I mean, a lot of growth, and the plant has changed. Everything is, a lot of things have changed. There's a lot more to this position than there ever was before, and I think that those questions need to be asked, Jack.
I mean, Mike, it's a follow-up. If an engineering firm, which, may be a good thing, they still have to be multidisciplined where they have different guys can do this, because this is not a one hat guy job. But if you look at it, they charge a reasonable rate, $150 an hour, which is reasonable for consulting firms. Usually it's more. That gives us 100 hours at the $15,000, and 100 hours a year. That's like 2 weeks of work. I mean, a year.
I know.
The numbers don't work.
Yeah.
Well, the first step is, can we do it? And you could put in a typical thing in engineering contracts in the past that I've seen with the town and the board is that you have the right to review resumes and stuff like that if people put on the project. We used to say that all the time when I was with the town, because you want the right to have who's working with you to be, in your opinion, a good engineer.
Qualified, right.
So, but I can see if we can do something like that for this position.
Let me go a little further. Darlene, if you would, other plants that you guys operate, typically, give us some examples of what that situation is in comparison to what we do.
So in Brockton, they have a full-time contract administrator assigned to the project, but that's both a wastewater and a drinking water project, and he's full-time. He's also a city employee and does some work with them with the distribution system. Other than that, it really is a DPW director. There's a lot of towns that do not have an independent person who's assigned just to the contract. Brockton is the only other one that has a similar situation.
Okay.
I think it's because you're a board, you're kind of a unique situation.
Right.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I was hired, is because I worked for one of the towns, and I guess, and Fran Holloway's the only one that can answer this because he was around back then, is they probably figured that I would be fair relative to both towns. But it wasn't part of my job description with the town of Westborough. It was totally independent.
Jack, let me ask you a question. What was the job description when this thing was formed, and how is that compared to the job description we have today?
Okay, the job description that I was presented was in Ed's letter of hiring, or whatever you want to call it, offer of job. It was 4 items. The primary thing was to oversee the contract firm, the contract operations firm. I forget now. I sent it out a while ago. I can resend it out, but there were 4 items in Ed's letter. Bing, 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 bing. So what I did over the years is, over whatever practice, if you want to call it that. But, I knew that the board had the bylaws. So I incorporated the bylaws into my unofficial job description. No, which is just what I do. And then I incorporated the IMA into the job description, again, the unwritten job description. So I took Ed's letter, the bylaws, intermunicipal agreement, and basically meeting by meeting what the board wanted me to do. as far as carrying out the affairs of the board. So basically, my job description, if you want a technical answer, would be Ed's offer of, his letter of offering me the job. That
was plain and simple back then, and through
Plain and
osmosis over the years, the more the board asked you to do, the more this thing got expanded and expanded and expanded.
Right. I assume when the board hired Jim Taylor full-time,
Mhm.
I'm going way back. Again, Fran was on the board back
I was here with Jim too, so yeah.
then. But I assume that they had a job description for Jim. You had to, because he was under the, he was considered a full-time town employee, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all of the staff was town employees. So they probably all had job descriptions as well. But that was never presented to me, and I would never ask Shay or anybody at the plant to try to find it. And same thing with town hall. I don't think they'd ever find it either. It was just too long ago.
And Jack, you replaced Jim, right?
I replaced Jim. Yeah.
Okay.
Jim was the first and only full-time EA that you had.
Right.
He was hired to up as the first EA. He was hired full-time just prior to the plant. I don't know exactly when, according to the plant operations, but as the plant was going from town to board, he was hired to take over. I'm not too sure exactly when he came on board. Probably around 84, 85, I'm guessing.
But let me, Mr. Chairman, who's to say that we have to keep a $15,000 line item for this when you're spending millions of dollars for parts and pieces of the plant? And why are we tied to $15,000 for this position?
I don't disagree with that.
I mean, you got two problems. You got a complicated resume, and then you got $15,000. Well, the resume is the resume. The only thing you have power over is changing the salary and making the position modified. But you certainly can't use $15,000 with that resume. It's not going to work.
Right.
I can discuss it some with Christie if you want. My thinking is it's kind of too late for this town meeting because you really want to justify it really good for that. But my thinking is over the next several months, if it's decided, number one, does board need to go out to a firm? Can you go out to a firm? And the other question is, and one of the reasons to get maybe the thing going is to really get town hall to look at the job description, and maybe I can work with them to see if they think that the salary should be expanded. They don't control the salary, the board does, but at the same time, you're looking for direction, I think, that I cannot provide. So maybe ask Christie if they think that the value is adequate for the position, given today's world. And if so, then maybe at either the fall town meeting or next year's town meeting, the board put in next year's budget, but a higher value for salary, but then you'll be justified in doing it because you've gone through town hall, working with them and their HR people to try to come up with a solution for today's world, if that makes sense. So you get the town to buy in by working with the board into an expanded salary. And
What if you increase the scope to include the Westborough water plant as well? That's also going up for RFP right now.
The issue you have there is that means that the EA will work part-time for the town and part-time for the board. So because the board is not town. And again, I go back to when things were not working well. But at the same time, I caution that in the future, you don't know if politically things are going to revert back to the way they were. Mike's able to keep a good handle on it. Don Cole started the goodwill between everybody. But all it takes is to go back. When I worked for the town of Westborough and the board, I had a devil of a time with ethics. Devil of a time. I was in front of the Ethics Commission about 3 times. So that is a good idea. So whether it be Westborough or Shrewsbury, work with the town of Shrewsbury. But if you do something like that, you want to work with both towns to get both boards of selectmen, probably the sewer commissioners in Shrewsbury, I don't know, to get everybody to buy in. Before I was hired in 1990, I asked the Board of Selectmen in Westborough, would you mind? I work for you. Would you mind if I worked for the treatment plant? They said no. Next thing I knew, I was in front of the Ethics Commission. So you want to make sure that everybody buys in totally. If you take an employee from one of the 2 towns and ask them to work for you jointly. That's my recommendation. The board can do whatever you want. I can only recommend based upon my history. I've been good at times. I have appreciated working for the board, I'll put it that way, but it has created some tension with me. So if you do incorporate a town employee, that's an easy solution, but I want to advise you that potentially does have pitfalls. I guess that's my statement.
So who operates the water treatment plant?
Right now it's Veolia.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
In the past, Veolia has said that they don't need the full allotment of people. I think it was the electrician or somebody that they would share.
All right, that's all well. But my next question is, Darlene, who is there somebody that does what Jack does over there?
No, we just deal directly with the DPW commissioner over
That's what I
there,
thought.
or director, right? So they
Yeah.
they don't have a separate contract administrator. The DPW director is new, and both him and the assistant, Josh, and
Right.
yeah. So
Derek is
maybe
the
they would
assistant, right?
entertain something like this because they are new to the position to have a. And I wasn't thinking an existing town employee back. I wondered if the town would consider creating a position that becomes an independent contract administrator.
Yeah.
I think Jack's point is you've got the town of Shrewsbury involved.
Yeah.
And, Westborough's getting the benefit of the person for 2 plants, and Shrewsbury's paying part of the guy's salary, and all they're getting is the wastewater treatment plant.
Doesn't
How are they gonna
Shrewsbury have
feel?
additional wastewater connections as well, or water operations? Do they need
Yeah.
oversight there?
That's why I suggested you get the Board of Selectmen of both towns to buy in to the situation. You obviously you have to get the DPW to buy into it as well. But you'd also want the town of Shrewsbury, because I can remember, I think it was Mr. Carney asked Ed, why is Westborough going after Jack? We're supposed to. Ed came and told me that. So if you want to get everybody to buy into it, I think, because the board represents both towns, and now you're taking a town mutual employee, making it a position with the board, but then how's that leave Shrewsbury?
That's not gonna work. I'll tell you what. If you put a Westborough DPW guy or auspices of that DPW in Westborough over the plant, it's not gonna fly. It's not gonna fly at all in Shrewsbury. And it's a new
Right.
DPW over there. They don't know the ropes yet. So
Right.
it'll be a disaster.
Fran, that was my concern. That was my concern.
And let me finish. And I
Yeah.
think if if you have a Westborough guy overlook it, Shrewsbury's gonna have a little anxiety. If you have a Shrewsbury guy overlooking it, Westborough's gonna have a little anxiety. It's gotta be a fiduciary responsibility of the board to have the person work for the board. If in one of the other towns, politics will sooner or later come back into play, and we'll be back where we were 30 years ago when I came on with the McCoys and the Hatfields fighting here.
Hatfields and McCoys, yeah. I agree with Fran.
You know, that's why I think it'd be best, my thinking is for me to sit down with Christie, or, you know, I'll start with Kim, I think her name is, and then I'll work up to Christie if I have to, but sit down with them, have them look at job description and everything, and if they may have an idea if they think the board is correct in it from the municipal point of view. And if so, then maybe the board should look at expanding the work type of thing. Not the work, but the involvement of the person. And then if that's the case, then we could have a meeting with Shrewsbury, because they pay about 60% of the bill, and to make sure they're on board with expanding the position. And if everybody's on board with expanding the position, then you expand the position. I think that would be better than hiring a firm, because to me, a firm is going to look out more for its own stuff than the board. But if it's not full-time, the firm might be the alternative to it. So I'll pursue that at the same time, but it's up to the board.
You know, with regard to the job description, I think it's just should be the first 2 pages.
Yes.
The rest of it is just backup in the event that you get somebody in for an interview. You can talk to them about here are the specifics. Because otherwise, I think Fran mentioned, it's going to spook them with 7 or 8 pages.
I think Rich is 100% right on that one.
Yeah.
So, and I would, you know, get this out to someone like Indeed.com, or get it listed very quickly just to see what kind of response there might be. Even before everything's all set, just get it out there and see what happens. And then we can.
But then that's kind of like false. You want to be careful that you falsely advertise, because then somebody could come back and say, you put the position up, but it's not ready yet. And
Jack, no, trust me when I tell you, I've been spending a great deal of time on these sites, and you put your name in, you know, your resume goes in, and then you get responses back, position closed, position on hold, you know, whatever. You can do what you want to do. Trust me.
And you can say right in the ad that this is tentative at this point. You know,
you don't even have to say that. You can. They're pulling this stuff back all the time. They look and see what they get for resumes, and then they say, you know what, we're gonna sit tight for a little while here.
Yeah.
And then I've seen jobs that were advertised 6 months ago. They've come back, and you put your name back in again, and it's on hold again. You know, so I wouldn't worry about false advertisement at this point.
Is there an association of retired engineers, a group that you could advertise through?
Yeah, they're all on this board.
I think that might be, you know, somebody who'd be receptive to a part-time job like this.
Well, there was, Jack will know more about it, but there was Municipal Engineers Association, you know, Massachusetts group. They were active, but you could always advertise through them as well. Jack, are they still active, do you know?
They are not. That group kind of just faded away because of, you know, just people didn't want to put in the time or do whatever. I was president of that group for a while, and eventually we handed it off to the next group, and they just kind of stopped doing anything. So it does not exist anymore.
Okay.
That was a big thing way back then, Jack, too. With Ed Holland.
You have MMA. That's more of a universal Mass Municipal Association, I think it is.
But APWA would be another source where you get people that are actually in the field. And I think that's what a lot of people were doing, because towns were cutting back and whatever else. Choose your one organization to belong to, or none, you pay on your own. That's kind of what happened to a lot of these places. And APWA offered a much broader range of topics and discussions and the areas you could concentrate on, whereas Mass Municipal Engineers was a much smaller group. There's a lot of cities and towns, some towns don't even have town engineers, and so that's why it was not a big group to choose from. But I'd say APWA might be the way to go, but a group of retired people, I don't know if that organization exists.
Now, which one is that, Jack? The,
American Public Works Association?
oh, AP.
Huge. Yeah, APWA.
Yeah, okay.
The national organization.
Well,
Anything to do with DPW, anything and everything, I should say. I was also a member of that, and that was there was some overlap between the two groups, but APWA had a much broader scope of what they covered.
I think Fran wants to say something. Fran Holloway.
Yeah, that New England Water Environment Association as well, NUIA, has a job site.
Another one.
let me check to see, but I think we're going to have to, before we advertise, because we're.
Right, Jack, hold on one second. Franny Holloway wants to chime in if we can let him. I don't know if we're gonna be able to hear him or not.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Fran.
That's all right. I can't hear him.
No.
What procedure do we have to go through to double the salary? What else? And then advertise the job.
Right.
Okay. My opinion is that we'd have to go through town meeting to double the salary. And that would be that. Give a little history. Back in the late 80s, I think it was. I think I was on the board at the time. I was on the board for about 6 months. The board wanted to give Jim Taylor a raise, and the personnel board did not want to. So the board interpreted the IMA to say that it was up to the board's discretion as to what it paid the EA, and that is what carried the show. That was a long time ago, and things were not too good between everybody, if Fran recalls. So I would think that you would want, before you increase the salary significantly, to get at least Westborough on board, but I would suggest both towns on board. Even though it's
Yeah,
not a significant.
Jack, all right, let's take double out. Let's say just increase. Why do we have to go to town meeting to do that?
To
You get a
money.
raise every year. We don't go to town meeting.
To get well, that's what I mean. No, it's you'd have to go. We've got in there a 2% or 1.8% increase for my salary. We'd have to double my salary on the board's budget. So we'd have to resubmit the budget and ask for the more money. So it's to get the money, not approval to increase it, but to get the money. That 1.8% that the board's asking that I get has to be voted on. So if it's a 100% increase, the board would have to vote on, the town meeting has to vote the board's budget. It would be in the board's budget. That's why I meant it would be in the board's budget. You'd have to increase the board's budget to go to town meeting to get the budget approved.
What's the total budget amount? Roughly.
About 5 million.
All right. So you put five.
Fran would like to make another comment.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Aggravating me.
Go ahead. Have we got Fran? Yes, no?
Eric, do you have the comment from Fran?
Eric, are you there?
Okay, yeah, I thought maybe you could hear what he said. He said, well,
Can't hear him at all.
what would happen if you went and said, look, if I'll have to summarize this, Fran, sorry. 40 years have gone by, and Jack has been underpaid.
Yep.
Now to get someone to replace him, you're going to have to double the salary.
You may have to more than double it.
Right.
He said he doesn't see any objections coming from the town, going from the
I don't either.
15 to 30.
Listen, my comment is, look, it's $15,000 or $5 million budget. It's .003. If you increase his salary, whatever the number is, and it's in the budget itself as a line item, no one has to say we're going in for a raise for him. It's in the budget, okay? It's a line item.
Yeah, but the problem is,
It's a small
Fran,
line item. It's a very small line item, so it's a moot point.
Fran, I agree with you 1,000%. The problem is the timing. The budget's already in. If we want to bring somebody in for September or October, we have to go back and ask for that money to increase the budget. Right, Jack? Is that
Right.
the point you were making?
Right.
That
So-
would be hold on, Jack. That would be the case of going to town meeting specifically for the extra money. If we were doing this in January, or back in November, December, when Jack was putting the budget together, Franny, you're 100% right. We slide it in as a line item. Nobody knows shit from Shinola. We just put it in and off we go. It's a piss hole in the snow, as they say. Nobody's even going to say a word about it.
Right.
But the problem is the timing of it.
Well, I'll go back to my initial suggestion. If we go to town hall, have them look at the job description, and one of the questions we can ask them is, do you think that $15,000 is sufficient for a person, part-time or full-time, part-time essentially, to do this? Or should the board ask for more money? Either, if I do it quickly, I can ask at this town meeting, but
Jack, just back up for 1 second.
Yep.
Go to town hall and ask them if they think it's enough money. They don't know. They don't know what you do. We're looking at this. We don't know what you do.
No, well, they'll be
No,
looking.
Jack, hear me out. Hear me out, Jack. No, we need to go and say, we don't feel this is sufficient. What do we need? What do we need to do? What do we need to do to increase it?
Mr. Chairman, I think going back to what Rich was saying earlier, we need to test this in the market. Let the marketplace tell us what the job is worth. And then go to town hall and say, look, we got 3 different people opinions based on this job description. This is worth X dollars a year, or else we ain't getting anyone. That's what you need is backup, not someone's opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I'm just going to throw this out there, but would Jack consider staying if you're now talking about doubling the salary?
Well, there you go.
To me, it's not about the money, but at some point I'm going to have to retire. So,
Jack, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
To Darlene's point, okay? All right. We've pretty much established in this conversation you're grossly underpaid. Okay. All right. At some point, you want to retire, you want to walk away. Okay. If we can increase the salary to the point that we're talking, okay, would you give us another year? Let us get through this. Let us get through the contract negotiations. Get us through the NIPID's permit. Get us through all this stuff that we're doing here. Okay, and then we can flush that all through, and then we can, in earnest, okay. Now that we've got an established salary that makes market sense, we can go back and in good faith advertise the position to replace you. All the difficult stuff will be taken care of for the next 10 to 15, 20 years. The person comes in and it's a much smoother, easier transition. Don't answer it right now.
yeah.
Go home. Or stay home. and think about it.
Mr. Chairman, I got a problem with that philosophy, that here's a guy that's been here, that now he's getting information, he's been underpaid for the last 30 years. Now we want him to stay here for another ham sandwich in his increase, and then train some other guy that knows shit. They're getting double what he was getting, that he knows everything. I would be in a real hard pressed thing to say retirement age and time is more valuable than money. See you later, alligator.
Right.
Now,
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I figured I'd throw it out there and give him the opportunity to make that decision. If he
Well,
comes back and says no,
I'm looking at Jack's facial expressions and I'm reading his body language. He's very uncomfortable right now, and I can appreciate that.
and that's why I
well,
said don't answer the question right now.
I personally, if I'm going to stay on, I'd rather stay at the same rate, because if I stay on and the board increases it without justification, I think you're going to have to answer to other people. That's my opinion, and I don't mind staying a little bit, but like I mentioned before, at some point enough is enough. But I appreciate everything that's being said. I don't mind staying through the RFP process. If I have to stay longer to get a valid job description, a valid amount for the person, I don't mind doing that either. So I don't mind doing all that. You're talking about buying just another year. I don't mind staying for another year if I have to. But I'm not talking, because I think if the board increases it, it's going to look like I'm trying to finagle the board, and I'm not trying to finagle the board.
Let's get the, some.
Jack, let me say something. Wait, listen, I'm agitated, okay? I've been there for 30 years or more on the board. I don't even know when I came on before all this stuff, but Jack has been here, and there's been some political stuff in the very beginning. He was town engineer and all the politics in Westborough with his job, and then coming over to us and all that. Jack, I wouldn't worry about what people are going to say about you, because most of those people are gone, retired, and they're non-issue, all right? So whatever we do for you has nothing to do with them. It's none of their goddamn business.
I agree.
I meant a second. I would say that, look, we've already established by going through this exercise that the position warrants more money. So I would not be upset about paying Jack if he stayed on the more money. I think what he's trying to say, doesn't want any to look like he's been trying to get this increase. But I think it's easy to explain that as we went through all this, and as over time this position's morphed into more and more work, that now at the time we reevaluated and we found out, hey, we got a problem. We're not paying. And there's three ways you're going to get the money. One is you're going to go to town, through the budget process and go to town meeting, have it approved. I don't know if we're too late to do that or not. You can ask that when you're at town hall, say, can we revise the budget? The second one is going to be find it somewhere else in the budget if they'll allow you to move it around. And that's typically not allowed for salaries to take it out of operations items when it comes to these town budgets.
Right.
And
No.
third,
Yeah, we can't do that.
and the third way is you got to go back to the town and ask for a reserve fund transfer after we find out how much it is and say, look, we went through this exercise. We already had the budget in. It was too late for that. We need X amount more for the current fiscal year and moving forward. We'll adjust the budget next year. And that, towns always have so much set aside for the unanticipated expenses, and that's what it's for, and that's how you go get it. I know Shrewsbury, the process is, I don't want to say easy, but it's there to use. And I'm not sure how Westborough's is, because all of this would have to be done through Westborough. I assume it's pretty much the same way.
Yeah, the one issue that the board has, truthfully, that, no, it's the first item, I can see if we can do that. The second item, you can't switch from salary to expenses. You're right. And the third item is, what will complicate it is because Shrewsbury pays for 60% of my salary at the end of the day, it's just not an easy transfer. But if the first one doesn't pan out, I can report back to the board. It was too late to increase the salary, but it was too late to increase the salary. Then the question is, I can go back to them if the board wants and say, okay, the board wants to increase the fee at the fall town meeting, increase the salary. What steps do we have to go through for that? Okay, so I think if we get no to the first one, then the board could pursue the second one, but because it's a funky board, no offense, it's more complicated than Westborough, Shrewsbury. Westborough has the same way. If you want to go back to money,
Right, Jack, the perfect scenario.
Town meeting does all this hocus pocus with free cash and all that stuff there, or whatever, and they do it. But because it's a board situation, it's a little bit different.
Jack, the perfect scenario to Jack Peralt's comments is the first option. And I got to believe that there's got to be time to adjust the budget. I mean, when do they start evaluating the budgets?
I think they've already started, but typically we're not involved. What I'll do is, the easiest thing for me to do is to call, or reach out to Christie, say the board wants to double, I'll go through the explanation, but the board wants to double the budget. Is it too late for the board to
increase the salary budget?
Yeah.
Don't tell her you don't want double. Don't give her sticker shock. Don't give her sticker shock. Say that there's been a lot of discussion, and because of the fact that we're looking to, at some point, bring in a new person with, now that we've gone through the job description and tasks and so forth, we understand that in order to bring a new person in, the salary's going to have to be increased, and they want to do this now while I'm on board so we can get it done, boom, 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 however you want to put it. But don't use the word double, just say increase.
Right.
Jack, when you're doing that, provide them with your list of tasks and your job description you have done so they can physically see it.
Right.
I had one question. Is there a way that we could offer the town hall savings in another part of the budget? Let's say we found a way to reduce the electrical budget by $10,000 or whatever, and would like to allocate that toward new.
Then we have to do that again next year, Tom.
Yeah.
The following year.
You don't want to do that, Tom, because I know what you're saying. That's kind of like scenario number 2 of what Jack said. Not the same,
right.
Similar.
Just a thought.
You don't want to start doing that because now you're taking away from the budget.
And Jack, if I could, back to Franzaretti's original point, you're talking a minuscule % of the budget. So we don't need to give anything back to get the job done. I'm not giving anything back to get the job done the right way and compensate it the right way. That should not be a requirement. You know what I'm saying? I understand Tom's point, but no, and it's that would have a like I said, a trickle down effect. Every year we'd have to slash something to justify the salary. No, the salary is what it is, and it's a very small percentage of the overall budget.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the argument that you're about ready to replace me, that I'm about ready to retire, and you're finding out that, in the board's opinion, that you need more money to replace me for my position, for what I do. I think that's the argument to take, even though it's a significant increase in the salary budget, it's not a significant increase in the board's budget.
Exactly.
Peanuts.
I think you have to stay focused on that.
Right.
So what I'll do is I'll send over the job description and the list of tasks, and I'll also say that the board feels that, et cetera, that it's going to need more money, an increase in my salary to accomplish what it's looking for. And I'd like to talk to you about this stuff.
Jack, let me ask you this. Do you have a face-to-face meeting with them, or you do a Zoom meeting? What do you do?
No, I'll do an email. No, I don't. I'll do a face-to-face depending upon what's required. I don't know, Mike. I met with town hall.
Okay.
I haven't even met with Keith. So.
Right. Hold on one second. So why don't we, if and when it comes to the point where a conversation needs to be had with Christie and what's the HR girl's name?
Kim.
Kim, nice girl.
She's Christie's right-hand person.
Right. Why don't we why don't we see if we can do this? If it's gonna be a Zoom meeting or whatever, why don't we include myself from Westborough, and if he's willing, Jack Peralt from Shrewsbury to be in on that meeting, so that it doesn't look like you're coming looking for the money. We can be the backup to say, this is what we're up against. And we can have representative of both towns there, and, you know, the board in both towns, and it doesn't look like you're going to speak for yourself to get a raise. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Jack, does that make sense to you?
I'm fine with that. The board's okay with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the rest of the board?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's good.
Yeah,
Good
that
idea.
way it's, you know, strength in numbers type of thing, you know, and we can get the point across to them pretty clearly.
you know, Mike, and when, I'm gonna be signing off soon, and I got you guys started on this thing early, but I think it's a good venue today to get into this. But maybe Christie ought to know that Jack should put in for retroactive pay for the last 20 years, so that comes up to $300,000. Okay, so maybe the deal you're gonna give us is gonna be a good
Right.
deal.
Yeah, exactly. Well put, Fran, very well put.
Let's not go there.
All right. So, all right, we know where we need to go with that, Jack. So let's,
Okay.
let's move on so we can finish up, get everybody back to their, you know, it's almost nap time for some
Right.
guys. So we gotta, we gotta move along here.
Okay, I think that's it for me, Mr. Chairman. Keith and I'll do some homework on MIA credits, and we'll report
Okay.
back next month on that.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else? Keith, anything that you want to bring to us outside of your report there? Or?
No, I didn't have anything else but was in the monthly report. If the board
Okay,
wants, I
thanks.
can review it, or everybody's had time to review it.
Okay. All right, so it looks like the next meeting would be February 10th. I got it right this time. So we'll do, Jack, if you can walk through the guys at the plant, Eric, and whoever's doing whatever Shay does, you know, as far as reaching out, making sure that we have attendance, a quorum, and we'll move forward with that date.
Great, yeah.
Or if we
I
have to
believe Eric
adjust,
has a
we'll
list from
adjust.
Shay, but I'll look over his shoulder.
Okay, yeah, just to give them some guidance, if you would.
Great.
All right. And outside of that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Great job, guys. Appreciate everybody's patience and a lot of good thoughts here, and we'll get this thing moving forward. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Aye.
Meeting? You mean?